everybody, welcome back to the channel, guys. Thank you for everybody tuning in, all these likes, shares, and subscribes. I really appreciate it. Keep that up. We are cranking out another video for you guys today. This is the Evo 10 drivetrain fluids, and when I say that, we're doing all three. We are doing the T-case, the rear diff, and we're also doing the yaw control in the back. I'll go over the product in 1 second. If you guys haven't seen the transmission fluid change, check that piece out right here. And I also, a long time ago, did an oil change as well if you need to know how to do that basic one. But regardless, today we are knocking out all three. We'll start in the rear end here and do the rear diff and yaw control. Let's go over what kind of product we'll need here. All right, so first things first, we'll need 3 of these fluids. We're gonna use all OEM Mitsubishi fluids for this. For the T-case up front, we're gonna be needing an SAE 90 as well as another SAE 90 for the rear diff. And then for the yaw control, you'll be using automatic transmission fluid, the ATF SP3. So that is that. Let's go ahead and jump back, jack this car up, and knock some fluids out. All right, guys, as I'm jacking this car up right now, I'm gonna put jack stands on either side and drop this down to clear me some space here. I do wanna note, you guys did see me drive the car out and then the other one in. I actually drove this around the block multiple times first because I wanted to get all of the fluids nice and hot to get a nice flow going out. So a little prep work before you actually pull this thing in the garage and get it done. All right, so first thing we'll do is drain out the rear diff and yaw control fluid. You're gonna be needing 3 tools for this. The stranger one is you will need a 10mm Allen key. 10mm Allen key to break out the drains for these things. You'll also need a 17 socket with a small extension just like this. You could get away with a small socket wrench, but I'm using a 17 wrench because it's a lot easier to get one of the fill bolts off for that. So 17 here, 17 socket, and your 10mm Allen key. Let's go ahead and start breaking stuff up and drain it all out. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna loosen up is actually the fills. I'm just gonna loosen them up by hand so that way I'm not fighting it when I start draining these out and they start plugging. I'm gonna go ahead and be able to pull those out and let the air flow so it comes out nice and smooth and gets any debris, especially if anything's caught in there, to flow out nice and simple. First one you're gonna do is this one back here. Now over here is where the end of the exhaust, guys, that's the front of the car, just in case you're mixed matched here. Right here, it even says gear oil on it. That is gonna be your fill. You're gonna go ahead and loosen that one up with a 17, okay? I've already loosened mine up, almost by hand, I guess. Fill bolt loosened up for the rear diff. Now you're gonna loosen up your yaw control fill, which is right in the center here. I understand, guys, you can only see my hand right here, but it says oil on the bolt right in the middle of the diff, okay? You'll get a better perspective of that when I actually fill it, so just be patient for that in a second here. But loosen this one just by hand, and then you're gonna go ahead and grab your 10mm Allen key, okay? There's gonna be 2 different ones, they're right next to each other. You got one right here and one right here. I've already broken these things up, so they should, yep, there we go. They're nice and loose already. And I'm just gonna go ahead and pull my pan under, start loosening those up, and then I'll go ahead and take out my fill bolts, and like I said, so that way it flows out nice and easy. Okay, so as this is draining, just looking at the magnetic bolt, it does have a magnetic one back here just like the transmission had, so you do see some metal shavings are collected on here, but like super little baby ones. That looks really, really healthy if you guys can get hopefully a good vision on that. And we'll just wipe this thing off, let it drain out the rest of the way, return our bolt here. In the meantime, let's go ahead and drain our other side. Alright, so as that is draining, let's go ahead and talk about intervals. When you guys should be actually changing out this fluid in the vehicles, okay? So every 30,000 miles, you should be changing out your T-case fluid and your rear end fluid. If you do track use, every 15,000 miles is that marker when you want to change it out, because obviously there's more abuse on the gears in there, okay? So front end, rear end, every 30,000 miles, and same deal with the yaw control fluid in the rear. Yaw control fluid, I do want to point out something that's a little bit different. This in the rear back, as you guys know, you do have a reservoir, okay? So the reservoir back here is right here, and that is for your yaw control fluid. As you can see, it is to the max line right now, and we've already got the car up and we're completely drained it. So it is on a separate line system, okay? The only time you would ever actually change that out or bleed the system, you do not bleed this system, is only if you're changing out your yaw control module thing down there, or changing out lines, or changing out the actual reservoir. That's the only time you would actually change that fluid. So I did want to show you, because I'm sure some people are wondering when that goes down, do you fill it from there, what you got to do. I'll show you obviously how to fill it in a second, but that was just a little extra something as we are letting it drain out. So let's go ahead and jump back under though. Now it is all good to go, and we'll add back our Allen key drain bolts there. So here she goes, guys. Drain's all tightened up. Now this is the SAE 90 we're gonna be doing first. Now this is gonna call for 0.55 to 0.58 of this container right here, okay? So we'll go ahead and go down just in between. This is 5 right here. So we'll go just a little bit above that and we'll be good to go. Now I'm using a little pump system. You can get these things at like Advanced Auto Parts or AutoZone. These are the best for getting fluids up in things when they're upside down like this, okay? So no problem. I'm just gonna go ahead and go put this right in here and I'll just pump in 5.5 to 5.8. Okay, all filled up with the SAE 90 in the backside here. The fill bolt rather is back on. It does call for a torque spec, which I believe is 37 foot-pounds, but regardless, I'm not doing it today because even this smaller 3/8 torque wrench will not fit over there. So I'm just grabbing my regular 17 here, cranking it down. I already tightened it pretty much, giving about, you know, that 35 to 40-pound feel with your hand as best as possible. We'll go ahead and get to the next. So a little note I want to throw in between here before we do the yaw control fluid. We just finished the diff. I did put it back down and actually took the bolt back off and just checked the fluid level again, because despite this does call for a very specific amount, it started overflowing right before that. So I thought maybe I should bring the car down to level to make sure, because it was cockeyed up like that, it wasn't tilting over and draining out. That actually was not the case and it was completely fine, but always want to double check. And now I'll be doing my automatic transmission fluid for the yaw control with it down level ground, just so we don't run into that same potential factor again. All right, guys, the worst view of my lifetime here, but this is the rear diff right in the center back. Right in the center there, you'll see this is that hole that said oil on it earlier. I said it was the SP3 in the center you didn't have too good of a view on. So I did change my fluid out. As you can see, this new one, this is a red fluid. I did pump through some of this fluid already to get any of the residue from the other one through, as well as the stick that actually goes in the container. I fully cleaned before switching them, so I didn't want any residue of the SAE 90 going in where your automatic transmission fluid goes. And again, like I said, it's right in the center. This does call for about the exact same amount as the other one with a 0.55. So we'll go ahead and keep pumping it and or until it overflows on you. The car, just like the other one, is back down on the ground, so it is nice and even as it pumps through. All right, and then you take your little bolt, make sure you have your little metal washer on there, and you can go ahead and replace that right back in. All right, guys, and there it is, man. Rear diff changed out as well as the yaw control. I did want to come out of the center there to give you a better perspective if you didn't get a good angle of where I was filling that in. But I've now tightened down that fill bolt to that torque spec, kind of, and as well as the other one. So now we are good to go. We can jump to the front and change out the T-case fluid. All right, guys, car all up on a jack stand over here. You guys can see I pulled a plastic tray out from under the engine over here. Remember, this is 2 sections. You have your first section that goes all the way around the front skirt, and then this is the back section, same section that has the 10mm cutout if you're gonna do an oil change on here, okay? So this is just held in by the little plastic clips, and you should be able to slide this thing right out, then exposing the actual T-case so we can drain it. You will need a 24mm to actually drain it, and a 17 for the fill. Let's go ahead and set you guys down, and we'll start draining this thing out. All right, under the car now, guys. Hope you do have a good view. This is gonna be your oil pan right here, and this is going towards the back of the car, your T-case directly behind the oil pan here. It does have these little ribs here with a 24mm bolt, which will be your drain bolt today. And then right up in this area right there, right where my finger is at right there, that is gonna be your 17mm fill bolt. I will go ahead and crack the 17 loose up there just by hand so I can unscrew it and make sure this gets a nice even flow right after I drop out the drain bolt. Also on top of that, I'll move over to the side of the car and I will drop the car down off of the jack and let it flow out nice and even and give it some time to do that. And that way, since it's all cockeyed up this way, I don't want it to sit up over here and settle any deposits. So let's get it done. So as the T-case is draining the rest of the way out, just to go over exactly what we're gonna do when we get under there, as you can see, I have my fresh bottle of SAE 90. This is a brand new bottle because we're gonna be pumping the entire thing in the T-case, okay? You also are gonna have your fill bolt here, which we took off, does have a little metal washer, as well as a metal washer on your drain bolt. Remember, just like the back one, your drain bolt does have a little magnetic tip, so go ahead and clear all that stuff off. If there's any major chunks of debris, that's not great, but this one was good to go, just like the rear one was, okay? So in a second here, what I'm gonna do after it's done filling up is I'm actually gonna jack the car up and I'm gonna return the fill bolt on there. Of course, with washer, gonna return the fill bolt, okay? So fill bolt back on, and actually per Jack's transmission, this is how you're gonna fill up the T-case. So after the fill bolt is back tightened down, you're gonna take the little pump system like this, some type of rag, and you're gonna wrap it as thick as possible because you're gonna be putting this right into the drain. So put this right into the drain. Obviously this bolt is off. Put it right in the drain, trying to jam the sides up as best as possible, and you're gonna pump this entire thing through. After it's completely done all the way through, you're gonna immediately grab this, pull it out as fast as possible, and get this in as clean as fast as possible as well. The actual drain bolt, okay? Then after that is done, you'll start the car up and you'll drive it around the block. What that's gonna do is work its way through all the gear sets. You'll come home, you'll jack the car back up and you will open up the fill at that point. Now, since it's worked all the way through, any excess will level itself out through that fill bolt just by pouring out, and then as soon as it stops pouring out the fill, you are at the perfect level all the way through and through the T-case, and you are guaranteed to be in good shape. Now that is the option at Jack's Transmission, places that actually rebuild these things. That's what they say that you should do, okay? You can also do it through the top and the fill bolt if you'd like to, but the problem is it creates air pockets as you're filling it, and then it gives you the false sense that it is full, and when it starts overflowing, people will close it, and then at the end of the day, you don't have enough in there, it starts whining, you burn it up, and you're spending thousands of dollars on repairs. That's why you pump it in through the bottom from the directions of the place that actually rebuilds these systems. So those are the directions, guys. We should be all drained out by this point, so I'll go ahead and return that fill bolt as I was saying, making sure the washer is on there, and then we'll go ahead and get some rags and we'll start pumping this in through the drain bolt. All right, fill bolt all tightened down, guys. Make sure you have your drain bolt with washer nice and handy for when you pump this thing in, because again, as soon as you pull it out after the entire bottle is pumped in, it's obviously going to be flowing out pretty fast, so you want to get that on as fast as possible. Guys, now we are back from taking a couple laps around the block here. Now we have all the gear set oil going all the way through the system, and we're completely good to go. So now we can actually get under the car after jacking it up. Now you did see I put a jack stand on this side and on the other to make it as even as possible. This does have stock suspension, so you see that wheel gap. Look at the back one, bro. Stock suspension, so it sits pretty freaking high. I want to get the car nice and even, and that way when it's flowing out, it's not at an angle and it's not going to be changing exactly how much fluid is left in there after it's done. So now that it's up all like this, I'll go ahead to the front. I'll slide under there, take off my fill bolt, as I said, let it flow, return it when it's done, crank it down, and then we'll go ahead and put our underskirt there, and we are done with this job. So all drained out now, tighten it back down and torque spec'd up. We can go ahead and now return our plastics on the bottom here, lower the car down, and we are done with this project today. All right, guys, and there is the follow-up video, man, from the transmission fluid. Now to do the rear diff, the yaw control, and the T-case. All of them knocked out now, guys. I hope you guys do enjoy these videos. I hope that did help you guys out. Any further questions, please always comment in the section below. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that good stuff, man. We'll see you in the next one.